Hey kids, today I want to talk to you about a technique that I developed for myself. Now, I'm not saying that I came up with this, but this is something that I did for myself that helped me get rid of negative thoughts and negative people that were renting too much space in my head. And I'm sharing this with you because it's possible that there will be a time in your life, like there was in mine, where people tell you that you can't do something and you believe it, or it starts to repeat in your head that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, you're not handsome enough or pretty enough, that you can't do something because of where you grew up or how you grew up or whatever it may be. And I hope that this brings you a little bit of peace of mind and peace in spirit. From the age of 13 to 16, I would visit my grandparents in Mexico every summer. And I remember my grandfather sitting in his chair by the door, smoking cigarette after cigarette after cigarette, just worried about everything that was going on in his world, in his life. I'm pretty sure that he was concerned about his family, his children, and his grandchildren, constantly just having them on their mind and constantly throwing blessings left and right. And there was a time after his death that I became worried and anxious about a lot of things. I remember the first time that I noticed this. I had a job that stressed me out so much. I was a telemarketer. I would be that person who would call people and bother them to sell them things over the phone. And I was pretty good at it. In fact, I was so good at it that they moved me to more and more challenging campaigns. And one day, they put me on a really challenging campaign where I didn't sell a single thing all day. And the next day, I didn't sell anything again. And at the end of that second day, my boss comes up to me and says, "Hey, if at the end of the day tomorrow you do not sell, you're not going to have a job to come back to." So I started to worry about that because I needed the money. And I remember waking up the next morning panicked that I had overslept, but I had woken up 20 minutes before my alarm went off. And then I started noticing that my thoughts were like, what if I don't sell anything and I lose my job? Then what am I going to do? What if I lose my job and then I can't find another job? Then what am I going to do? And then what if? So I get to work, and once lunch comes around, I still haven't sold anything, and I'm anxious, so much so that my stomach hurts and I can't even eat my food. Then after lunch, I got it. I got one good sale, and my supervisor didn't even acknowledge it, just completely ignored it. And I thought to myself, you know what? It's time to move on. I can't take this risk. And the next day I heard that they were hiring at IKEA and that they were doing interviews for their call center. So I went during my lunch and I interviewed, and they gave me the job that same day. Then a few months later, they were moving their call center to Baltimore, and they give us all an option. Either you move to Baltimore and you can keep your job, or unfortunately, we're closing down this call center. You're going to have to find another job. And then that worry intensified. What if this? What if? And I just bought a new truck, so my worries were multiplied, right? Like, what if I lose my job? What if I can't pay this truck? What if I, have to get it repoed? What if? And I just got so worked up over a lot of things. Then many years later, I had this other job that really stressed the life out of me. I mean, I would wake up in the morning terrified to go to work. I would throw up in the morning. I'd leave my house 40 minutes before so that I can give myself 30 minutes to sit in my chair and compose myself and work up the courage to walk into that door and clock in, because I was so stressed out by this person that I used to work for. It was bad. And I knew that I had to do something about it. Years before this job, I got into personal development. So I was reading books by Tony Robbins and looking at books on NLP. And I was obsessed with getting rich, right? So that I didn't have to work for anybody else and I could be my own boss and all that stuff, which I'm not mocking, right? But it was silly for me to think that way because I needed to take care of the root problem. And the root problem was that I was looking at the world with anxiety and with fear. So one day I decided to do something about it, and I went home and I sat and I meditated. And in this meditation, I started to allow my thoughts to sort of just pass me by. And I started noticing that there were some thoughts that I was giving my attention to and that really started to affect me on a physical level. And I knew that there was something that I needed to do about this specifically, about the thoughts that were passing me by. These little visitors that would come by and I would just allow them to rent space in my head. And then that gave me an idea, renting space. So then I pictured my inner being like a hotel for thoughts and for ideas and for concepts and beliefs. And then I noticed that there was no one at the front desk. There was no one there to dictate who would get a room and who would not get a room. Everyone would just come right in. Anger, resentment, fear, anxiety, all of that would just come in and get a room and just wreak havoc. destroy the rooms. And I thought to myself, okay, well, it's time to take over. It's new management. And my first act as the new manager was to evict everyone, to get everyone out of there. All the negative thinking, all the fears, all the anxiety, all the frustration, all the pain, everyone out, including the positive thoughts, everyone. Everyone just needed to get out because every room needed to be cleaned up. All the trash needed to be taken out and the walls needed to be fixed and repaired in preparation for the types of guests that I did want in my hotel. Once I cleared all that out, I took over the front desk and I had a list of VIP guests that I was going to allow into my hotel. And guess what? As soon as fear shows up and says, I'd like to get a room, I'd look at the list and I'd say, I'm sorry, you're not on this list. You can't come in. And they would turn into a Karen and they'd, oh, this and that, and you're going to hear it, and I'm going to call this person and this and that and the other. And they would try to get me to be afraid to say, okay, fine, come in. But no more. Because you're going to destroy the thing that I'm building here. And this is a VIP only hotel for very special guests. And you're not allowed to come in. And this meant that when love would come to the front desk and want to get a room, you are more than welcome here. Love, peace, tranquility, positive thinking, encouragement, all of that stuff was now occupying a room in me. So if you're dealing with something similar to what I was dealing with, anxiety and depression and negative thinking and people renting space in your head, and you want to live a more calmer life, try this out. Evict everyone. Tell everyone to get out and that you're going to renovate and really do it, which means that you have to look into yourself and say, if I'm afraid of this, why am I afraid of that? No more. I need you out and only welcome the things that you want in living inside of you. VIP guest only. Does that mean that you'll never feel anxiety, fear, depression, or anything like that? No, it doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that in the future, when you start seeing that those things are living in you, you can evict them again. The hardest part of this is that you have people in your outside world that are demanding your attention, and you give them your attention, and then you start falling for people who are going to hurt you again, and then suddenly hurt is living inside of you again, and then suddenly that hurt invites anger, and then you have anger inside of you, and anger invites frustration, and then suddenly you're having a party in a room, and you're gonna have to call security and kick them out again. I know this. So what I did was I pictured my attention as a store, and I noticed that there were a lot of people at my door demanding that they have some attention, which is my product. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but we're closed. I brought in all my attention, all of my product inside. And whenever somebody came and knocked and said, I need attention right now. 1 second, please. We're restocking. And then I decide who I gave my attention to and who I did not give my attention to minimize those little moments where pain enters and anger enters and all these other negative emotions enter and take over the hotel. So I want to encourage you to evict everyone from inside of yourself. Take a pen and paper and make a VIP list of the people that you want living in you, of the ideas you want living in you, of the thoughts you want living in you, of the beliefs and concepts that you want living in you. And if you have to, make another list of unwanted guests so you can check against this list anytime they show up and say, I'm sorry, you're not welcome here. It's something that has now helped me out for years, and I pray that it helps generations to come. I love you, and I pray to the Great Spirit that worry and anxiety leaves your hotel and that love and peace checks in.